Hi, welcome everybody to New Beginnings for Love, Light and Laughter. I'm your host, Natasha J. Rosewood, and I am a psychic coach, spirit medium, quantum healer, past life regressionist, and author of 5 books, which you probably know about by now. So thank you for watching. And if you would like to know about the show topics, you can subscribe to my newsletter if you go to my website, which unfortunately right now is down, but it will be back up by this weekend, natasharosewood.com. You just go right to the bottom and just enter your name and email, and you'll be on my newsletter list. And that's where you'll get all the previous shows, and you'll learn about which topics are coming up if you want to tune in. So on today's show, we are going to talk about the F word, making friends with forgiveness. And if you are having challenges forgiving someone or yourself even, this show is for you. So please join me on the link, or you can write in the chat line and ask questions. I'd always love to hear from you. This is an interactive show, hopefully, and we want to know that this information is hitting home for many of you, as I know it is. And if you act on this information, it will absolutely change your life. Miracles can happen. So I'm just looking forward to that. I just want to give you an update on my Spirit in Action segment of the show. As you know, my husband and I went to Mexico not too long ago, and we got these lovely photographs. We took one suitcase full of some supplies for seniors, some clothes, some educational supplies, plus a very nice suitcase. And Marina Garcia, who I work with down there, she's my kind of link. She was kind enough to send us some photographs, some lovely photographs of these seniors in the clothes, holding up the things, and also really acknowledging the receipt of the suitcase. And just so you know, 2 things about Mexico that we learned this, or I learned this time, is that the seniors often do not get any kind of pension. So if they are not financially independent, or if they can't move in with their family, they actually have to go on the street, which is very, very sad. So I work with Marina, works with an organization called DIF, and in English that's translated into the Development of Integrated Families down there in Mexico. It's actually a government organization. They work with Por los Niños, for the children, the other foundation we support down there. And they do need things like walkers, wheelchairs, canes. And if you are able to procure these, if you talk to WestJet, they have a humanitarian program. If you contact them about a week out, sometimes they can ship those things down there for free. I'm really, if you want to contribute, you can contact me, Natasha at natasharosewood.com, or you can contact Marina Garcia on Facebook. Sorry, I'm blanking out a little bit. So I'm just checking to see if, no, I was hoping to have a lady on, and we were going to be talking about a local organization called H.O.P.E Outreach. And I'm new to this technology, so I hope I haven't done anything wrong here. But if Shey does come on later on, we'll definitely get her on, and we'll be talking about that. So now let's talk about forgiveness. Have you ever cringed at the F word, forgiveness? When I suggest this to some of my clients to just really cut the cords from somebody that's hurt them very badly, that's in the past, their reaction is, oh, why should I forgive that? Bleep, 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 bleep. Do you know what they did to me? Well, I totally understand. I've been there, done that. I've had some really awful things done to me as well. I think we all have. None of us get through life without some kind of crisis like that. But do you really want to be hanging on to that pain and that sadness? And this is what people don't really understand about forgiveness, is that they think that if they hang on really, really tightly to this anger and this emotion, that the other person is going to stay with them in that dark place. And what I found is that often those other people don't even care. Sometimes they don't even realize the pain they've caused, or they just, they're in this power game and they go, ha, 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 I did that person. So the only person that's really suffering by hanging on to it is you. Do you really want to keep doing that? And we've all been hurt one time or another. Relationships can be a matter of trial and error. And I kind of think that these missteps in relationships are kind of part of our learning process as we go through life. They're part of our karma sometimes, but our relationships kind of show us who we are and who we're not. So every experience like this is an experience of learning and teaching, and we find out what we do like and what we don't like, who we are and who we're not. So sometimes we need to be thanking these people for reflecting back to us something that we weren't aware of within our own psyche. And unforgiveness is really a power struggle, which you don't want to be in. It's an underdog, overdog kind of situation. And if you think about this, if you stay in the place of unforgiveness, you're keeping yourself in that place of being a victim. Like, that person did this to me. And I know, been there, like I say. And you don't want to stay in that position because it locks everything up in your psyche, it locks up the flow of your energy, it puts you definitely in a lower frequency. And you hear me talk about frequency all the time because we attract when we're wanting to get into the law of attraction, win a lottery or get that job or find that dream relationship. If we're in this lower place, we're like in the dark room and nobody can find us in that dark room. So we want to get out of the dark room, come out into the light, so we're available for that other great stuff. And it takes two to I'll try that one again. It takes two to play the power game. I've done this when I walked away from something. I've noticed that the game stopped. If we don't engage, if we don't give it attention, it just calms right down. And that person can still be ranting and raving at you. But if you're walk into the next room or walk out the front door and go down the street, it doesn't exist in your world anymore. And that person, it gets tired of talking to themselves and stops. So what are you going to decide about that? By forgiving that person, you're leaving the perpetrator to their own devices. And pretty soon they're going to get tired of playing that game, or they'll know that, like, you're not into it, and they'll go find another victim, somebody that is a victim. So you have the power to manage this situation. You have so much power to manage this situation. And I really want to empower you to use that power. But, let me tell you a story. So most of you who know me, I'm a psychic, like I say, and people would ask me, so Natasha, how did you become a psychic? And I'd say, well, the short story is if my mother hadn't been a psycho, I wouldn't be a psychic. And that's a sad truth because she was a major, major lesson in my life. There was a lot of abusive stuff that went on. It was very, very scary and confusing. She was also an alcoholic. She was bipolar. I think she was possessed. I know she was possessed. So it was a very scary time in my life. And yes, I was very angry at her because it did me so much damage. I think it got in the way of my relationships for a long, long time. So in 2001, just after 9/11, my father called me from the UK and said, oh, your mother is dying. I don't know whether you want to come see her. She's in Scotland. She's in hospital. I don't think it's imminent. And I went, oh, I think it is. And so I hightailed it over to Scotland and I sat vigil at my mother's bedside. And my brother had warned me before I arrived. He said, well, she's had a stroke. She can't speak. Her hearing's still okay. Maybe you don't need to come. And I said, no, that's perfect. I get to have the last word. And I knew when I sat by my mother's side that I knew she was a humanist. And a humanist is somebody who does not believe in a life after death. And I went, oh no, I don't want her hanging around haunting me. And I think she might be roaming the hallways, not at rest. And so I knew that my last words to her would have to be words of forgiveness. So even though I was terrified, she was going to sit and bolt upright from her hospital bed, and her emaciated form was going to start spinning her head and spewing green slime. So we just heard from Shey, and she said she's in the wrong spot. I think she might be. So I'm not too sure. Shey, I'm just going to say, don't worry about it tonight, and we'll sort it out next time. And we'll have you on a show all to yourself. So I'm very sorry about that. I'm new at this technology as well. So we will sort it out. So there I am in Scotland, sitting by my mother's bedside, and I've decided I've got to do this forgiveness ritual with her if we're going to be free of our toxic past from each other. So I did lean over her, and I said to her, listen, we're all done now. We want you to go in peace. You've hurt us. We've hurt you, referring to my siblings. Nobody else is coming. It's just me now. And I want you, wherever you're going, I just want you to know you did what you did. You did what you did, and we're good. So go in peace and be well, and amen, so be it. And even though she was not physically able, because she was so emaciated, to even turn herself over in her bed, when I said these last words, she raised up her body, and this moan came out of her, and this was like a misty cloud coming out right out of her heart, out of her chest. And it felt like she was releasing something a lot. It just went like poof into the air. And then she slumped back down onto the bed, and she turned over. She nestled into the pillow, and it was like she was saying to me, we're done. It's over now. You can go now. So I did leave at that point, and the next day she actually did pass. And then when I came back to Canada, I was thinking of my mother. Where is she in spirit? What's going on with her? And I knew she was in a hospital bed, and it's like she was releasing all these demons that she'd accumulated during this lifetime, where she'd been this very psychic with very low frequency, and an alcoholic, like I say, and vengeful, really angry. And she'd accumulated all these demons anyway. One by one, they were leaving. And then about 8 months later, she actually bounced into my kitchen where I was living in Seychelles. And she was like 28 years old and beautiful again and very happy. And she told me, she actually thanked me. She said, thank you so much for doing that forgiveness ritual with me, because it really allowed me to accelerate my process on the other side. And I could see that she'd returned to a beautiful essence, and she was really happy. And our relationship, me and the physical, her and the spirit, since then has been nothing but loving and supportive. So I highly recommend forgiveness. It's never too late. So we all have a choice. We can continue to carry the weight of the perpetrator's misdeeds around with us, and we can imprison ourselves in a life sentence of guilt and anger and rage if we want to, or we can just let it go. So if you do want to release yourself from this burden, here are 5 tips on how to forgive. So number 1 is ask yourself this: is this negative event part of my karma? Did I do this to somebody else in a past life? I've often had that feeling myself. It's like, this feels like something's coming around again, and maybe I'm not the innocent here. And of course, when we get over the other side, there's nothing to forgive. It's not to be punished. We're not to be punished, but we are here to learn. So we need to have the experience so we can know what it feels like, so we can learn the lesson, so we don't do it to somebody else again. Number 2, remember that our worst and often most painful experiences are here to teach us, like my mother. Her kind of condition, if you like, absolutely amplified my desire to understand, to learn. I studied psychology and all the metaphysical disciplines, astrology, I Ching, palmistry, all the psychic stuff. I needed to understand why the universe worked the way it did, because it was so devastating to me that this was happening to this woman who happened to be my mother. And at some point in the future, you may not understand immediately, but I can guarantee you at some point in the future, if you're open to receiving that information, you will understand why this terrible thing happened to you, because there is a gift of learning in it. And it might take 10 or 20 years before you, oh my gosh, now I get it. But what I do now, whenever anything, even if I bang my elbow, I go, okay, what was I thinking? What did that teach me? What am I meant to learn from this? So I can really accelerate that process and accelerate my evolution. And I'm not spending years in being angry and upset because this thing happened to me. Instead, I'm kind of saying thank you to it, embracing it, and saying, well, this is good because something wonderful is going to come out of this. And I've often found that the level of the pain equals the level of joy. So it's like a teeter-totter, and it does balance itself out. Number 3, imagine that this pain is represented by a really heavy load of really rough bricks, and that this person gave to you. And if you feel so inclined, you can put this load of bricks into a big sack, and virtually, psychically, or in person, if you feel so inclined, you can hand this bag of bricks back to the person that gave it to you, because it's not your pain to carry. They did it. If they did it to you, then it belongs to them. You don't need to be carrying the pain. And this has really helped me in the past. So you can do that. I don't recommend throwing the bricks. Just hand them back gently and be nice. Number 4 is role playing. This is an interesting one because I've done this with a lot of people when they've done stuff to me or they've said things and I'm gone, oh, I don't really understand why that came up. So we don't always understand what other people are thinking. Far from it, especially now with the planets doing all their weird shenanigans and our gamma rays being messed with by the increase in the frequency on the planet. People are going to behave very strangely. Even according to my astrologer, Tamara McClellan, she said there are glitches in relationships right now. So we've got to be extra kind and extra understanding and extra patient with one another. But if somebody comes to you and does something to you, you might want to role play and step into their personality or step into their mind and go, okay, what were they thinking at the time that this was happening? Were they dealing with some kind of fear, a fear of betrayal, a fear of abandonment, a fear of survival? Were they jealous? Our insecurities are triggered all the time by different things. And you might have been innocently going about your day and said something and it just hit them the wrong way. So when you step into their life and their role, maybe you might have a bit of understanding about what was going on with them at that time. And it just might soften your approach to them, because you might want to call them back and say, listen, I just want to clarify, was this going on with you? What was happening with you? Because this kind of didn't feel right to me. So the role play. And also we come to this life to live each other's lives. So it's not a bad thing to do anyway, because you're going to have more understanding and more, dare I say, humanity in you when you understand and think about what other people are going through and why they behave the way they do. And number 5, if it's just too big, to let it go. And I've had a few of these where after my fiance died, his daughters came through the very next morning. I mean, he dropped dead at 9 o'clock at night, and then the very next day they're coming through and they're taking pictures off walls and going through drawers. And it was such a violation. It was so horrendous. And I'm sitting there like a bag of potatoes in shock and grief, not able to do anything. And it was I carried that pain and that violation for a year, because that pain for me was worse than actually losing my fiance in some ways. And it got so big that I had to say to the universe, listen, I don't want to carry this. I know if I hang on to it, it'll give me cancer. I don't want this in my body. I don't want it in my psyche. So I gave it over to the universe to take from me, knowing that there is always karma. There's justice. The soul always wants to balance itself, and it does sooner or later. And it's not for us. I think there's a line in the Bible about that, and I forget the quote now, but it's not for us to dole out the judgment. It's to give it up to our higher power, whatever you call that higher power, and just release it, because then at least you're not carrying this thing. You're free of it. It's an albatross, and it's over there somewhere, and it's trust that it's being taken care of, because justice is always restored. But what happens if it's not somebody else you need to forgive? What happens if it's you that you need to forgive? In my experience, many of us come into this life with guilt. I don't know, we bring it in from past lives, or we're born guilty. Maybe it's the old Christian dogma that you're all born miserable sinners. And I never agreed with that one. I still don't agree with that one. We do have things we've done in past lives that we're not proud of, that we haven't healed. And that's why I offer past life regression, so people can go into those stories, that old movie, and restore balance by forgiving or being forgiven. So perhaps you are haunted by something you did or you didn't do, or maybe you just blamed yourself for something that happened that was happening next door. You weren't even responsible for it, but for some reason you say, oh, it must be me. It must be my fault. You might believe that by holding on to your guilt and punishing yourself, that somehow you're going to be, if you punish yourself enough, it's like a prison sentence. If you do it for long enough, the sentence will then, the guilt will go away. But what happens is it doesn't. And what happens is you sink into sometimes a level of anxiety, and that anxiety can take you into a depression, or you walk around with this big fear like, oh my God, I was been a bad person. Something or somebody is going to punish me. And so you've got this fear about what's it going to be? When's it going to strike? There's a book called The Course in Miracles, which actually talks about that. So it's all about being free of guilt so that you're not in fear of punishment. Very, very interesting. The other thing the guilt does is just show you that you actually have a conscience, that you're not a psychopath. Isn't that great news? But if you hang on to it, it's a wasted emotion. It's a wasted life. It's wasted energy. It's just heaviness. It really impacts your health and your psyche, and it's not good. So we don't want you to waste your life. We want you to be empowered. So how do you forgive yourself? Well, we can take action. There are things that we can do to alleviate the guilt. So if you really feel badly about something, you can write to the person that you feel that you harmed, or the people, and please beg forgiveness and say, I'm really sorry. How can I make this up to you? If they're not available for that, you can pay it forward in another way. You can contribute to one of the foundations that I'm talking about. There's plenty of charities out there. You can go and do something really good for somebody else, so that you remember what a good person you are. And I would say, if you're feeling that, yes, you are indeed. If somebody has passed on, say you had a fight with them or you did something horrible to them and then they died, and you go, oh my gosh, I can't do anything about it now. Well, you can. It's never too late. Like my mother, the relationship continues, and you really want to be able to commune with that spirit. So you can write them a letter. You can just talk to them. You don't have to write them a letter, but if it makes you feel better, you can write them a letter and say what the instance was, how sorry you were, what you'd really like to say to them, so you can be at peace, so this guilt can evaporate, and the two of you can have a clean slate. You don't have to see each other in another lifetime. If you don't want to, you can say, lesson learned, thank you very much, but I want to be free. Because anytime we're holding on to a grievance, whether that person is alive or dead, or I shouldn't say dead, on the other side, because they're not dead, they're still going on. Anytime that's still going on, you've got this kind of cord between you, and you feel every thought, you're connected. And if you don't want to be connected to that person, which I imagine you don't, you need to make peace, and then you can cut that cord, tie it off, and then you're free to go your separate ways. It's done. And that way you don't have to revisit it in another lifetime or be worried about what they're going to say when you get over the other side and you bump into them. Instead of going, oh my God, it's so-and-so, you might say, oh, remember we had that experience in that movie that we just called life, and you really got me going. And really they just turned out to be a dear old friend who acted a part for you so you could learn that lesson. So it's very, very cool. So there are 4 main benefits of forgiveness. I mean, I can go on about this all night. To me, fear and anxiety can be absolutely lessened. It can actually disappear, and you're going to replace that heaviness with more positivity and enjoyment. What's awful about that is fantastic. Number 2, your health will improve. You'll notice that you have more energy. Your immune system is going, oh, thank heavens, I don't have to deal with this big weight anymore. I can move freely. It's like, the water's flowing again, the heart's pumping, everything's really, really good, because you don't have this burden taking you down into that lower frequency. You're actually rising up, and you're feeling more alive. You've got more energy for joy, for happiness, for creativity, for people. You might be more adventurous because the fear has gone. You're not expecting the punishment anymore. So it's like, oh my God, it's safe to do that now. You're going to feel this vibrancy, and you'll attract more success in that high frequency, because that's where the good stuff happens. Number 4, you've got freedom. It really is a feeling of being let off the hook, unleashed, because you've done the forgiving, really, because it's all about you. It's not really about the other person. The other person just showed up to give you an experience. So thank that other person, embrace them, and say, thank you for teaching me the lesson. I got it now. You're my hero. I'll see you on the other side. And your world will open up to so much more opportunities, and there you'll become the winner and empowered. So if you're still having issues with this, I do have a guided meditation. I'm just going to read it off, because this has helped a lot of my clients. When they haven't been able to do this forgiveness ritual on the conscious level, I've given this guided meditation, and they've gone, oh, thank you, Natasha. That really helped. So for this to work, though, you have to be ready to let go. If you're still going, no, I'm not going to forgive those bleep, bleep people, forget it. Don't even bother. But if you're thinking, yes, I really want to do this, I want to be free, this can really help you. So what you do is you sit in a comfortable place where you won't be disturbed. You can be in a chair, sitting, or lying down. And it's better if you're in a chair, though, because you can put another chair there and just make it vacant and available for whoever wants to come in. So it might be the person that hurt you, who can be dead or alive. It might be your spirit guide. It might be a reflection of yourself. Maybe you want to have a chat with forgiving you. So as you sit there in the chair, you're going to imagine that you've got this beautiful rose crystal pink bowl hovering just above your lap. And this bowl is a receptacle for everything that you want to get rid of, all the negativity. You're just going to put it in your bowl, and the angels are going to take it from you. So I'll tell you how to do that. So now you're all set up. You close your eyes and take 3 nice deep breaths. And on the inhale, you're going to inhale kindness, love and compassion for you. You're just going to be very, very gentle with yourself. And maybe you want to imagine your angels coming around you and supporting you in this process. They're standing guard. And then on the exhale, you're going to exhale all that regret, remorse, guilt, anger, rage, revenge, all that stuff, that negative stuff, and just breathe it into that bowl. And it's probably going to look like a black, cloudy mess. You can give it a color if you want. Maybe you can give it names, whatever, but you just want to set intention to really release that into the bowl. And then imagine your angels coming by and removing that bowl from you. So now that's gone. Now you're able to rise up and step into your highest self. This is above your ego. This is your spiritual self. This is your closest place to heaven. And then imagine the other person, or if that's a reflection of you, also being in their highest self. So you can see them in their spiritual essence, I want to say, in their true essence. And it's from this place where there's no, there's just recognizing each other as these beautiful spirits, asking that spirit, why did this happen? What was I meant to learn from it? What am I meant to do with it? And then listen and see what comes back to you. If you want to, then you can commune with the spirit, tell them how you feel, how sorry you are, express your love, your regret, your remorse. Really commune between the two of you until you feel complete with the communication, till it's all out of your body. Get it out of your body. And then let them communicate with you as well. So listen, be patient. You might think, oh, I'm just making this up. I'm hearing this voice in my head and I'm just making it up. But please trust yourself, because this is how it works. This is really how it works. And these people want to communicate with you. Trust me. They've been dying and waiting to communicate with you, especially if they've passed on, or even if they're on this planet still and they've been feeling the same as you have, like, gosh, I wish I could talk to so-and-so and sort this one out. So just trust it. And if they're not available, that's okay. Release them with love and let them go anyway. And so let the feeling of peace wash over you. Know that even if that person isn't ready to be forgiven, or you're not ready to forgive yourself, you've set intention that when the time is right, you've put this in motion. Because every thought we have, every action we take, it exists. And when it's ready to be activated, it will activate. So know that you've put it out there in the ether, and this is a beautiful thing. And then one day you might wake up and go, oh, I feel so much better. Or that person might call you, or they'll bump into you and they'll just embrace you with a nice warm hug, and you'll go, wow. Or you'll dream about that person that passed on, and you'll know that everything is good. And it is. So be it. Amen. So thank you all for listening. I really hope you use this information, because when you forgive and you release that energy, miracles can happen in your life if you're open and ready to have joy. So please do it. You will not only impact yourself, that other person, but you'll send ripples of high frequency energy out into the universe, and light and love and laughter. So I want to thank you to all our viewers, and I apologize again to Shey. I don't know what happened. I might have given her the wrong link. She may have gone to the wrong place, but we will have you on again, Shey, and everybody else who was listening to this. If you want more good feeling energy in your life, you can absolutely go to natasharosewood.com. I put these tips in my blog. I publish a weekly newsletter where you can get news about upcoming shows. Love to have you on as guests or questioners or storytellers. Come and tell your stories. And so you can subscribe to that newsletter at natasharosewood.com. And then you can learn about upcoming podcasts, and you can also follow me on social media. So next Wednesday, March 27th, I'm very excited because I'm inviting my Hollywood girlfriend, Joanne Sanchez, and we're going to do a show called The Hollywood Actress and the Psychic. What's the difference? Tales from the front. We've got some funny stories to tell. And if you like this content, please share the link. By liking and subscribe button, you can get a reminder every Wednesday and you help other people access this information. This show is for you, for your love, light, and laughter. Every day is an opportunity for new beginnings. And with forgiveness, you can have an even better and brighter future. Amen. So be it, and so it is. Namaste.